I'm Steve Kelly with you on a rainy Tuesday morning. And, of course, Tuesday morning means Talk to the Doc, always presented by our friends at Mako's Market and Pharmacy in downtown Uricksville. And we welcome Dr. Tim McKnight to the studios every Tuesday morning and talk about a different topic to keep you feeling good and healthy. And today we are excited to welcome an addition to the show. He'll be joining us once a month as well. And it's Dr. Mike Jakubowski from Twin City Chiropractic. So Doc, good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to see everybody here, and we are excited to extend what we talk about, Tim, with you, health of all different kinds. And Dr. J will be talking, of course, about your what's the official word, musculoskeletal or muscular?
Musculoskeletal.
Thank you. That's a tough one. That's a tongue twister. And so we're going to be getting into some interesting topics over the next few months with Dr. J. First, I want to backtrack here a little bit. And Tim, I just can't believe over a month now we've been talking about this coronavirus thing. And it's getting a little bit scary because we're starting to hear of several deaths here in the United States, which is kind of frightening.
That's true, and the fact that it seems to be spreading to the U.S. and we're seeing deaths now certainly makes us a little bit more anxious about it. But it continues to be a relatively small percentage of the people who contract the disease that die from it. And influenza is still much more deadly and much more prevalent. It's
interesting, too, that when we start talking about in the U.S., I noticed the Seattle, Washington area seems to be the one location where we've had a couple of deaths up there, so that's the one area that's hit. But I saw a map last night, and a lot of red around the states that are affected. But as of now, Ohio and a lot of this Midwest section, we've had no confirmed cases of it. So that's a good thing.
I think many of us are reading what's being posted out there, and I read something recently that we're seeing people that are developing the disease that have never had any contact with China or the Far East. So the question is, could it start at other locations? Is it just coming from China and the Far East?
And again, it's probably going to be, they're saying, a year before they can come up with some sort of a vaccine for it. So in the meantime, the best way is to handle this kind of like you would with the flu or any other transmitted virus, right? You
absolutely
wash your hands, you watch contact. I was talking about a study done here in the past week or so. People are starting to call off work and make excuses about avoiding big crowds, things like that. I don't think we've reached that stage yet.
No, we haven't got to the pandemic stage yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get there. But it doesn't mean that we should be paralyzed by fear.
And it's interesting that certain parts of the world, like of course obviously China, but Italy is an area that is very hard hit. They're starting to cancel a lot of flights in and out of countries like that. So it's definitely getting the attention, which I think is an important thing.
Yeah, and I think the message for me is that these viruses mutate and they evolve and they change. So this is going to be a recurring thing that we're going to have to get used to seeing this and not overreact to it, but just have good precautious measures to protect ourselves from it.
Good advice. And I never thought we'd be talking about this 5 weeks in a row, but it definitely is here, and I'm guessing we'll probably be talking about this next week as well. So we'll keep following it and be on top. I think that's the important thing. All right, let's backtrack here. I had a chance to come and sit in on Fit for Life last week. Coach Hartzell was there, and the stretching was just amazing. This guy's going to turn 80 this summer, and he jumps up on this table and does a split like a teenager.
Right.
And it's just incredible.
Yeah, he's a great motivator and a great role model for any of us.
Yeah, and so that was an excellent session. I know that's always one of the favorites for Fit for Life when Coach comes in and shows off his bands, and it's just an incredible story that he has and what he developed. And as he said, he was a coach at a high school, and he had a couple of guys blow out some muscles because they were lifting weights, and it made him just feel horrible. And so he started thinking, what can we do? And this thing is just a worldwide phenomenon now.
It really is exciting. And what I love about it, it's a great lead-in for musculoskeletal health.
Yeah,
Dr. J
Exactly.
and he talks about back pain. We're talking about many of the same principles that overlap. So we're hearing similar messages, and it can make a huge difference when people start moving the way they should.
Dr. J, we welcome you and look forward to getting your insights on how much movement is important. I know with my wife's situation, she had an accident, broke her back last summer, then had on top of that a knee situation. So she has been really struggling for months now trying to get back to walking and feeling good, and you were a big part of helping her stretch out. That's exactly what you do. I mean, the movement is the key to all of this. You can't just sit and hope it's going to heal.
Yeah, that's what we find, and in any musculoskeletal injury or just basic health, is movement is key. And if you're not moving, and people will see this after maybe they work their whole lives and then they retire and they're sitting around a lot more, they start to notice, boy, when I was working, I felt good, but now that I'm retired and I'm not doing as much, I have more pain. And it's because they're not moving.
Yeah,
and movement is the key to staying young. And
I can see how the two of you fit so well together because, I mean, you're all about it, Dr. McKnight, about you're never too old to get up and get moving and feel good and change the way your human body is aging. And I can see the two of you working together to make people feel good. It's a great thing.
Well, we're competitive about that. We work out together.
Okay.
And I just want to say this. Saturday I played 2 hours of basketball, and then I went ice skating for 2 hours. 4 hours of exercise. So I'm throwing this back to Dr. J. I want to know what he did Saturday.
Can you top that, Dr.
I
J?
can't top that one.
Wow.
I really can't. That's a lot of exercise.
That's great. But you guys push each other. You both understand the movements and what's going on with your body. And that is what you try to get out to your the people that you come to your offices. Is that movement is the key. Even in a situation like my wife, I'm not giving up and letting her think that this knee issue is going to make her sit the rest of her life. She's going to feel better and get out and get walking. And I know Tim has been behind that a lot, but the same for you, Dr. J.
Yeah, and that's what Dr. McKnight and I see is that it's good to have motivation. Like you want to help your wife so she's moving,
Right.
and same for him and I as we exercise together, but we motivate each other to do it. He'll give me a hard time like he just did, the 4 hours of exercise. And a lot of times we work out together in the gym, and sometimes he doesn't show up, so I give him a hard time about it. So
now we're going to be able to tell that on the radio when
this
somebody
bantering will never end.
When somebody slacks, we're going to be able to point it out
That's
to
right.
all of our
Yes.
listeners. So it's really amazing. And it has to be a good feeling for you to get people up and feeling better and able to get their life back, essentially.
yeah, it's the best job I could have, and it's basically what we're doing is educating people, correcting the mechanics so the body could heal itself, and that's basic goal. Is we have these everyday stresses that we put on our bodies, and how do we manage those so we feel good? And that's the best way to handle it.
Dr. J is obviously in the same line of work or similar to what Coach Hartzell does. You got to be pretty amazed by this guy as well, who's going to be 80 years old and he's bouncing around like a teenager.
I've seen him for years, and he actually goes to chiropractic conventions, speaks with chiropractors because the science behind it is the same. Joints have poor blood supply to them, so movement is the key. Fluid rushes into the joint, allows healing, and that's what these bands do. That's what chiropractic does. That's what exercise does, is keeping things movement, promotes healing, and that's the basic concept of life.
And I'd like to interject there for just a second. I met Dr. J in 2005, and we got to talking, and I realized this guy really knows his anatomy. And as we're talking about exercise, many of us will start to get aches and pains, and we can't figure out what to do, so we quit. Dr. Jacobowski has special training that some chiropractors have taken extra elective courses to do. And one of the things that I find really useful for me personally that he's helped me with, and I've referred a lot of patients to, is active release therapy, which is taking these muscles that get knotted up with repeat overuse injuries, or sometimes it's just poor posture. And he's able to put his hands on those muscles and those ligaments and tendons and stretch them out and free them so they move again. And I find that so helpful and so important And I think we're just really lucky to have somebody like that down
Sure.
in this county. I'm not sure there's anybody else in the county that does this.
And that again, looking back at my situation with my wife, I mean, that's the same thing you noticed with her, that she was compensating for the knee or the back and
Right.
and slouched over and not walking upright. That's where you come in with the stretching and the way to get people really aligned to the way they should be.
Sure, it's all turns down to just mechanics.
Right.
And like Dr. McKnight said, is cumulative trauma disorders. That's what we call it. Is if we sit at a desk all day, we use the same muscles to keep our head up.
Right.
Those muscles are overused 8 hours a day.
Sure.
If we pull a lever at a factory, you're using the same muscles
Yes.
day in and day out. They break down, scar tissue forms, and it alters the way we function. And then ultimately, that's where pain shows up. And you're like, where'd this come from? I sit at
Right,
a desk.
right.
It's just at a computer. No big deal. But it does add up through time.
And if you think about it, an elderly person, you may think of them kind of walking hunched over a little bit and hobbling along. That is all a sign of the poor posture and the alignment not being correct. I mean, you can get those muscles and bones, strengthened and walk straight and upright.
Yeah, and posture is a huge part of health. People are like, oh, I got poor posture. But in the Fit for Life class, there's studies done of thousands of people that have good posture and poor posture. And they found that the mortality rate is higher in people that have poor posture. And that's not just because you have aches and pains, but poor posture affects your breathing. It affects oxygen going to tissues throughout your whole body. So it's
Sure.
definitely a big part of life.
Really excited to have you joining us into the conversation here with what we do with Dr. McKnight on a weekly basis. And I'm guessing, since you guys are good friends and, bounce ideas off of each other, that you're very much involved in the nutrition, the supplement side of things, and how important that is to our overall health as well.
Yeah, nutrition's a big part of it, and I think that's where we see is everybody kind of gets stuck in, and we talk about this in Fit for Life, is, hey, you'll run through that fast food drive through and you gobble down that Big Mac or
Yes.
whatever it is, and when you're done eating it, you feel horrible.
Right,
So nutrition's a big part of it, and even with joints in the musculoskeletal system, supplementing proper nutrition can reduce inflammation and overall reduce your pain just by the things we eat.
Well, we're excited to have you on board with us and look forward to having you in on a monthly basis. Want to let everybody know you're in the Denison area. You're at 205 Grant Street in Denison. And if somebody wants to talk more about what they're hearing on the radio this morning, your number is 922-2325. Call for an appointment. And, of course, keep listening. Dr. Mike Jakubowski, as we refer to him as Dr. J, new member of Talk to the Doc here.
Yeah, thank you.
And we're glad to have you on board. And Tim, as always, I guess today kicked you aside a little bit here, but we certainly appreciate you, bringing Dr. J to our attention. And this is going to be a great fit with the Talk to the Doc segment.
Yeah, I appreciate that really a lot to have him here. I'm a little worried this afternoon when we go to the gym. I kind of ragged on him a little bit.
Exactly.
I'm in trouble.
Yeah,
so.
you're. Remember that 2 hours of skating, 2 hours of basketball.
We got to make it up. I guess.
So you'll probably be sore next Tuesday.
I'm going to be hurt, and I
here.
should have said nothing this morning about him.
Has Dr. J had his segment on Fit for Life yet? Has he been in?
No, it's coming up next week.
Okay, so
Tuesday.
next week. And this is week.
This is week 9,
8,
cardiovascular
9? Okay.
fitness. That's
Okay.
right.
All right. Really appreciate both of you coming in, and I hope our listeners are paying attention, because we want you to feel good, and you two are two of the best that we have in the Tuscarawas Valley to make that happen for people. Dr. J, welcome, and thanks for coming in.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And Tim, we'll talk to you again next
I will look
week
forward
as well.
to it. Yep,
and
thanks.
anybody that misses any part of the show, we want to remind you that these are posted on our website. You can listen to any of our episodes of Talk to the Doc at WBTClive.com. Talk to the Doc, again, brought to you today by not only our friends at Mako's Market and Pharmacy, but also Twin City Chiropractic